All right, welcome to Pro Booth Talk. I've got Lap with me as always. How are you, Lap? We also have a couple guests with us today, two guests. I think everyone in the industry knows Sammy and Ursula. If you don't, guys, who are you?
Sammy, do you want to start?
Hello, my name's Sammy, and I am the co-founder of Photobooth Marketing.
I'm Sammy's business partner and the co-founder of Photobooth Marketing. We offer the biggest library of content for the industry alongside training for your business to make your business better.
And we also own our own Photobooth business, which is Media Lab.
Perfect. And I will add in here, just because it's the truth, I am a member of Photo Booth Marketing, and obviously wouldn't have invited these two on the show if it was garbage. So Pro Booth Marketing doesn't suck.
What an intro.
Photobooth Marketing came as a byproduct of our booth business. So my background is 20 years in PR marketing, specifically specialising in brand marketing. And Sammy owned a photo booth business and was my first client when I went self-employed after I left agency. So that's a bit of background just to give you an idea of where we have come from and how we ended up in the position we're in today. But Jason,
So
we're
if you
delighted
were
to have you as well.
spending so much time specifically on brand marketing, let's jump into that. If you want to expand on branding, give us some thoughts about that, both for like a new company and maybe even companies that have been around for a couple of years, things that they should be aware of brand-wise.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I see across the entire industry, when someone first joins with us, we would give them the opportunity to send me their brand and their website, their social media to review for them and take a look at, because ultimately, before you even start marketing, branding is the foundations of your business. So branding is everything that you need to start your business. And people kind of miss this step in their business planning, and people go straight into the buying equipment and looking at all the shiny things and what's going to be great for the business, and they don't look at who's going to use my business, what's the target audience I'm going after, why do I want these people to recognize me as a leader in my field. And so by missing that step and just going to Fiverr and getting someone to do your logo, suddenly you're taking away 70% of the opportunities for your business from the very onset by not going through the process of looking at your brand. And branding is a process, and it's a really exciting process because it's where you get to look at, right, well, what target audience do I want to go after? You know, everyone sees this at a wedding or sees this at a party and thinks, oh, that looks easy. I'm going to buy one of those. And then they Google photo booth and then they go and buy one. And what they seem to forget is not only are you starting a business, but you're starting a brand. And that brand has to have a target audience. And that target audience has to relate to your brand. So even within our own business, as an example, we have two brands for our photo booths. We have a corporate brand and we have a wedding and social brand, because those audiences are completely different. And when someone lands on our wedding website, we want them to be a bride or groom, or we want them to land on the party page. We want them to land in the places that are relatable to them so that they want to buy from us. If a corporate lands on our wedding site, do we get inquiries? Yeah, we do. But is everything on the site right for them? Definitely not. And when that inquiry comes through, it gets sent to our corporate site and we say to them, we're a sister company of Booth NI and here's what we have for you. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, because they look at everybody else in the industry. So they'll Google all the booth companies in their area and they'll look at the websites and they'll look at the brands that people are currently using. And 90% of those brands are shit. I'm not allowed to say that word. 90% of those brands are not fabulous and really need a lot of work, really need quite a lot of work in order to make those brands a substantial business that is going to have longevity. And I think one of the things I love to talk about is people automatically take their brand and they want it to say what they do. It doesn't have to say what you do. Coca-Cola doesn't mean anything. Google doesn't mean anything. Uber doesn't mean anything. You can pick any name that is relatable to your target audience and then create your brand messaging and your marketing around it. And that's what the fun part about branding is. It's about doing something that gives you differentiation within the marketplace, that gives you personality, that you can stand over. Like I often say to people, if you're not going to stamp your brand on the side of your car and on every piece of clothing that you own, then it's not right.
Now you're not proud of it.
You have to own it. You have to live it. You have to become your brand.
But I think the mistake a lot of people make, Ursula, is two reasons. Number one, they don't really put any value on brand. And number two, everybody when they start is on a shoestring budget. Yeah. So the idea of spending $500 on creating a brand with a professional designer is way out of their budget. But the mistake they make is they continue on with the business 3 years down the line and never revisit their brand that they started with. Some people want to hold on to their brand like it's the most dearest thing to them, and the idea of changing it scares the crap out of them. Do you know what I mean?
And it can be scary.
And they'll happily spend $8,000 on a new booth, but the idea of going back and blowing $1,000 on a new brand is
terrifying.
They don't want to do it.
Yeah, and I had this conversation with someone over the weekend that isn't happy with their brand, and they really would like to rebrand, but they're afraid to. And I mean, major corporations rebrand all the time. It's not uncommon. Just because you change, even if you have to completely change the name of your company, you're not necessarily going to lose all of your clients. You can even still utilize your website and just use it as a pointer, but you should never be afraid to, if your brand isn't right, then change your brand.
Yeah. It could be a blessing losing all of your clients too. Like when I started, I had budget. You're laughing, but for me, it was a blessing. Like I didn't realize when I rebranded, like the clients that I used to have, they were just the race to the bottom type clients. And I'm glad I don't have those clients anymore. So rebranding for me and not having those clients was a blessing. Mm-hmm. I wasn't having to explain why a photo booth rental isn't too.
Yeah. And I think that everyone probably is familiar with Min. He's been in the industry for a long time and very respected and successful. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that about halfway through his career, he used to be like Instapic or Instabooth or something like that, and got a cease and desist from Instagram. And he had to change his name to Keopix, and he completely changed his brand. There's besides changing the name, his entire brand and image changed. And obviously he did it very successful. It's possible and it can be done. And it's not something that people should be afraid of.
His rebranding actually ended up being amazing. Like, I don't know if you've seen like the colors and the logo. I mean, it really captures like his creativity. That's his strength. So
and he had
it
grown
was
a lot
a great move
from the time he began.
Yeah. I can't even imagine him as whatever his Instabooth. I can't even imagine him as Instabooth anymore because his unique brand, his unique name is so befitting for what he does.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's funny you say that. Min's website would be one of the sites that I would use to say to people, like, this site is awesome, this brand is awesome. The first thing I did when I started working with Sammy as his marketing consultant was rebranded him. Sammy, what was your first name?
Do we really have to go into this? It was Empire Events.
So Sammy's brand
it has a Star Wars bit to it. Anything?
Well,
Empire,
it was more a New York thing, I think.
Well, my mind was Star Wars.
My version of this story. So it was the Empire State Building with the words Empire Events in front of it in the most block letters you've ever seen. Like, it looked like it fell out in 19. And I said to him, what does this mean? Like, what's the purpose of this? And he went, I like New York.
I don't know.
We're in bloody Ireland. What's that? How is it to anyone? Or what you do or what you want to achieve? So it was gone very, very quickly. And we rebranded within 4 weeks of starting.
What's a new name and what's a new logo? I know the name, but do you guys have it?
We've had several brands.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only going 6 years. And this is the thing. So Sammy and his business partner at the time then were rebranded to Lumina, which was all about lighting and flashy and making everything really cool and wow with your events. And then when Sammy and I went into business together, we went with Media Lab. And we went with Media Lab because we are content creators. So we want people to come in and let us get creative and put the chemistry behind their brand and elevate what they're doing and make them look better. And we went with Media Brand. But that even that brand has been not rebranded,
Developed.
refreshed would be the word I use. So it started off, it was quite cartoon like, and we had that silly little like explosion thing that you see, in chemistry kits.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that ever got past us, but it did at the time, and we thought it was cool. And slowly it's evolved to a much more sophisticated brand, and now it's much more about. So I talk all the time to people about debranding and decluttering your brand, because within the industry, one of you do a Google search for photo booths New York, and I'm telling you now that within the first 4 pages, every other website is going to be somebody's photo booth and a picture of a photo booth or an icon of a camera, or
Aperture rings are popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cameras.
All of that is like an absolute no. Get rid of it. It is just wrong. And now don't get me wrong, there's different brands within the industry who'll have characteristics, or they'll use an icon within their brand that is iconic to their brand. And so long as your marketing and your target audience is right for that, you can do it. But if you want to get into the level that we wanted to go to with corporate, we work all the way across the world. We started off in Ireland and the UK, then we moved into Europe, and now we're doing jobs everywhere. We had to make sure that our brand's sophisticated. And you only have to look at people like Chanel or Gucci, and like, they're just a word, and they're just black and white, and they're just using a really nice font, and they've debranded, But if you look at their original brands, they were thicker, they were clunky, And so, as Jason mentioned earlier, there is no brand that stays the same. And it's okay to evolve, and as you get better, the brand can get better, and it can grow with you, but the foundations have to be there. And if the foundations aren't there, then you really need to look at it and go, actually, is this where I want to be in 10 years' time? And what Lap said is so true, and I will say this and I will stand over it. If you change your branding and you rebrand properly and you invest in a rebrand, and Sammy talked about $500 earlier, that's cheap. Like, a really good branding agency can charge you anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000, depending on who you're using. And if you have it done properly, you literally can take your costings up by 70%. Because
That's amazing.
That's how much it matters.
But do you not think, Ursula, a lot of people don't know that you almost would need a branding course for people, because they just cannot see that their logo is ugly. They can't see it. And when
or
you
just
tell
like
them it's
everybody
a shop,
else's.
Yeah. But yes, exactly, because what they've looked at everybody else in the industry and copied what they do, and then you have 70% of an industry that's all got crap logos.
Yeah, I had a cleaning company years ago, and it was called Crystal Clean Cleaners. And I went through the same thing. Like, nobody could remember who we were because our name was just like everybody else's name. There's like 4 different Crystal something cleaners in town. And ultimately, we rebranded to Bluefish Cleaners. And that problem completely went away because Bluefish has nothing to do with cleaning, and it made it stand out so much more. It made it memorable. And I see so many people, and it may work for them. I don't want to knock anyone's names, I guess, but anyone that's like has lounge in their name or social booth in their name, like the social, smile, lounge, like all of those are just used so many times that if you're at a wedding show, you have 2 other people that have a name that's almost identical to yours, and your logo is probably very identical. Like, how are you going to stand out? How are you going to be remembered from those other companies? And being the same, like Sammy said, with a shutter button and as your O's is kind of been done already. That's not unique.
Yeah.
And also on the same note, like you're not your photo booth's brand. I don't know why so many people like to brand themselves as their photo booth. I see this a lot with PhotoMasters. People will like name their company after their PhotoMaster photo booth or their services after that. And I'm seeing it right now, a Sketchbot too. Everyone is saying, that's buying Sketchbot, saying rent my SketchBot, and I'm like, quit advertising for the like they're just going to go buy their own SketchBot, don't your brand shouldn't be your product's brand. Like, be your own brand.
Yeah.
Everything should be white labeled to death. Every individual product.
Well, that's the one thing, Sammy. When we first started working together, Sammy had already changed Mirror Me to Selfie Mirror, and at the time, he was one of the first to use Selfie Mirror, and then it became renowned within the industry, and people actually do search for it and they do ask for it as a service. But every booth that you had, I mean, the beauty booth was renamed Beaut Booth. I think we just went with, we shortened it. What did we call? Oh, Boomer Booth for our digital booths, because boomerangs were cool at the time. They're not cool anymore, of course. But all of those things were completely rebranded, because if you use your manufacturer's name in your branding, then you're just advertising for them, for your competitors. Whereas if you rebrand, and anyway, people shouldn't be promoting the tools they use. They shouldn't be marketing the tools they use. They should be marketing the individual experiences that they sell within their business. And that's part of the branding process. You have an overarching brand that's your company, that shows your ethos and shows what you're about and your creativity and the fun side of your business and your experience. And then you have the sub-brands within that for the services that you offer, not the tools that you use to complete those services.
But it's such a common mistake. Photo boothers think like photo boothers, and photo boothers go to show, and manufacturers sell photo boothers a photo booth, and the photo boothers all wrapped up in their new purchase, which is the photo booth. And what do? They go home. They go home and take a photo of it and stick it on their website. Look at my new photo booth, because
or even add it to their logo.
Yeah,
and
they
it's unique to our industry.
And talk. They think and walk and talk like a photo boother instead of thinking and walking and talking like the end client. You know,
if you're going to go shop for lawn service, you're not going to see anybody showing their lawnmower on their logos. They're going to show like beautiful lawns.
It's like booking a carpenter to build you. It's like booking a carpenter to build you a summer house, and you ask him to send you examples, and he sends you a picture of his hammer. What do you think? What do you think of that? And you're going to be like, well, why are you showing me this? Instead of sending you beautiful pictures of finished summer houses, he sends you a picture of a saw and a hammer on a tool belt. What do you think?
And that's what we're seeing a lot. And also with people that are buying those booths, they're getting content from those booth providers, which I understand. Like they need something to put on their websites right away. But that content being provided by their booth provider often results in websites that are looking like, their websites look like they're selling a photo booth instead of renting photo booths. So that's fine. You need some kind of content right away, but like replace that with your own content and your own branding as soon as you can, or better yet, join Photo Booth Market and get some content from them.
It is, but I love the branding process, because I think, like, we're talking here because we're established business owners. We've been through this process. Lap has said she rebranded. We have rebranded several times along the way.
Multiple, yeah.
Yeah, because you get to a point where you go, is that actually right? Why are we using that icon? Or, like, Sammy still hates our font. Like, we argue all the time about, well, what is it we don't? Because I'm not overly keen on it, but I'm like, it's better than what we had previously. But there's definitely something about that font that still does not fit with us. And your brand will evolve the same way your website is never finished. People start the process and they get their logo, right? That's where they start straight away. It's wrong. They get a logo. Yeah, that's lovely, but you need an actual brand, and your brand should be something visual. And then you need to look at who is your target audience. Who is it that you want to attract, and what key messaging are you going to use? So how are you going to talk to these people? And then you put those together while you're developing your website, and then it continues to grow. And it's an ever-evolving thing. Your brand is something that you should be working on continuously to make your business better. If someone does a consultation with me, like one-to-one, and they're like, I want to double my pricing this year, the first thing that I look at is their brand and their website and their own personal branding. I mean, there's one thing that grates me in the industry, and I'm going to say it because I'm very passionate about this. people going on to social media. If you're going to use your social media for business, then use your social media for business. But do not go on to social media and put one post about your Ursula's fabulous photo booth services this Saturday for $2.50, and then your next post talking about a political party, and then your next post about your fabulous photo booth, and your next post about religion, and your next. No, absolutely not. Everybody is entitled to have their own beliefs and your own personal life, and all of those things are great. But when you own and run a business, nothing that goes out on your social media is going to tell anybody anything personal about you or about your feelings or emotions on anything. Because as soon as you do that, you're losing customers. You're losing customers you didn't even know were potential customers, because your opinion is nobody else's opinion.
That's the reason I don't post a lot on social media. I just don't. I don't go look at my Facebook page. There's nothing personal on my Facebook page. Nothing.
No, because we'd be out of business.
No, because we would be out of business. Yep, I have to keep my mouth shut. It's exactly that. It's nobody's business. You go to my Facebook page and find any personal post or personal opinion of mine, you'll have to scroll back pretty far.
Yeah, and
I think
I just
the
don't have an
scary
opinion.
reality.
You'll find it on my
Yeah.
I find that very hard to believe, Jason. But you have to look at it and go, like, I know personally for me, if I'm doing research or I'm booking a service or I'm building a relationship with someone, there's two places I go. Actually, there's three places I go. I go and look at their Facebook page, I look at their Instagram page, and I look at their LinkedIn. Because I want to see who I'm doing business with. And I want to make sure that I want to work with that person and that they're right for me.
Do you feel this applies if you're not on public space? So I don't have a personal Instagram, but I have a personal Facebook page, but it's not really marketed for my business.
If you're only using your personal page for personal, it's perfectly fine.
I have no idea if I feel like I use it for personal.
Yeah, I mean, if a client's looking to book LA pics, they're going to go check out your Instagram,
they're going to my
sure, but they're not going to go to your Facebook like personal page.
Yeah,
and
but my
look
Facebook is private. It's only
right.
people that I'm friends with. So
that wouldn't matter.
Only friends.
Keep that private and post all your political rants that you want to on your private Facebook page. But I agree. Like there's somebody here in town, their Instagram is the same way. It'll have their photo booth stuff, but also pictures of their dogs, and they're going to their kids' school for some kind of assembly, and then also their church outing. So it is very confusing to anyone looking at it. Even though, like, if it's your personal Instagram, and sometimes you post some photo booth stuff because your friends are there, that's one thing. But this specific page is their business Instagram. It's labeled as their business, and they have all this personal stuff mixed in there, and it just doesn't look very professional.
And it is fine to show a little bit of personal in stories. So, for example, if you're a foodie and you're really into food, and you go to nice restaurants, or you go to the kind of things and are doing the kind of things that are relatable to your target audience, then that's okay for a little bit of that, because people find that relatable. And so it is important to show that side. Example. So Emily, who manages our Booth NI social media, would show stuff. She's gluten-free. And so she would show little bits on stories about her life with the kids, and the fact that she's also getting married. So she's planning a wedding, and little bits about her breakfast and her lifestyle in stories. It's not on the grid, but she gets a lot of potential customers engaging with her because she's relatable to the target audience. Now, would those posts be suitable on Media Lab? Absolutely not. But if I'm out at a networking event, or I'm out at a business event, or I see something cool that is events related, I will share that type of thing on Media Lab. But it's all about your target audience. Your brand ultimately is about attracting and retaining the right target audience. And now with the likes of social media, you have to be relevant and you have to be authentic. And so the easiest way to do that is finding a mix. But it definitely is not about sharing any political views, any religious views, anything that anybody else is going to criticize. It's just an absolute no-no.
But that in itself, brand new information to a lot of people, and many people we spoke to where the attitude is, well, it's my Facebook page, I'll post whatever I want. You know, they immediately don't get it.
But you're a business owner. Like from the minute I get up in the morning and I leave my front door and I drop my kids to the school gate, I'm a business owner. Any of those people standing at the school gate could be business owners, could be looking or getting married or have a daughter getting married, or are potential clients. Even when I'm filling the car with fuel at the gas station, like, you do not know who you're talking to. No matter where you go, if you're sitting having lunch, like, people are listening, people are watching. We now live in a world where nothing is private anymore. Nothing is private. And you literally have to become your brand the minute you walk out the door, and you have to remain your brand until you close your door.
Yeah, how many kind of stuff went viral when somebody was in a car recording somebody at a gas station doing something? You just never know. Which is it's scary.
And even without my logo, like if I'm going to a networking event, people can pretty much predict what I'm going to be wearing before I get there, whether I've got my logo or not, because I'm always coming in a manner that's going to represent the brand in some manner. And I'd say it has evolved to include like 90% of my wardrobe and where I'm going every day. But like you mentioned, as far as like, I agree with you as posting things that are non-business related that make you more relatable and more personable. But again, as long as that's not things that are contradicting, like if you want to post something about your dog every now and again, there's a lot of dog lovers that will relate to that. But if someone doesn't have a dog, they're not going to be turned off or repulsed by it. So anything that's going to make you memorable to some people and not turn other people away is going to make you more of a person.
Like, I have a lot of business contacts on my Instagram, my own personal Instagram, and on my own personal Facebook, because as my career has evolved over the last 20 years, they were some of the first platforms that we had. And I worked at agency, so you weren't always going to build relationships using the agency social media. So a lot of the people on my social media are actually event managers or production managers and are our target audience. But I also have my aunts and uncles and my brothers and sisters all over the world that do want to see pictures of my children, or friends that are supporting me on my fitness journey. And so there is a mix of content, but none of it is personal opinions. And I like to think that none of it's offensive unless people are getting really annoyed at me doing 3K in the gym in the morning, or me taking the dog out for a walk, or sharing a moment with my children. You know, in a way, what I'm doing is quite relatable as well, because 70% of our target audience within photo booth marketing are mums that are running a business that understand we have busy lives. And so it's relatable to them as well that we're squeezing business in between our life, you know. So it's finding that balance, and it's understanding the do's and don'ts of that balance, really. Now, do I post anything personal on LinkedIn? Absolutely not. Like, maybe one post a year. I think I posted something about my daughter last year, but it was relevant because it was about her education and her moving forward within her own journey in her career. So it was relatable to the target audience. But other than that, like, I'm not in there posting pictures of my food and my fitness and my kids and my dog. It's understanding the marketing platforms we have and the content on those platforms. But Jason, I want to go back to something that you talked about, because I think this is really important. Branded t-shirts. Okay. So there are some people who will always wear a branded t-shirt, which is perfectly fine, because I am the branding queen. I will have your brand tattooed on your forehead if I thought it was going to get you more business and I thought it was right for your brand. Like, Jason, you could get, you know, just at the back of your head, just a little tiny one.
Maybe like a logo teardrop.
Yeah. Your walking brand. Too far. But there's a time and a place for branded materials. So Jason, you said you have adapted your wardrobe so that when you're going out to events that you're on brand. And that's a really important thing that you have just said. So example, if I am going out to a networking event, am I going to wear a branded t-shirt? Absolutely not. Will you generally find pictures of me at networking events wearing navy and white? Yes, you will, because those are our brand colours. If you look in my wardrobe, we have 3 brands. Media Lab and Booth NI are both blue and white, and Photo Booth Marketing is navy blue and green. My wardrobe is navy, white, and green. Literally those colours. And if I'm going out, those are the colours that I'm wearing to make sure that I am on brand. And it's important.
And I've also made some lapel pins so that when I'm wearing, if it's a gala or an event where I'm wearing a suit, I do have some red suits and some suits with my logo and the lining and things like that, but sometimes those aren't appropriate, but I still want my logo at least on my lapel or something like that has some kind of callback to my branding, or a breast pocket that has my logo on it, or I've got a tie with my logo, so that there's always something, whether it's red or black or the logo somewhere is always incorporated if I'm at a networking event.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love it. And
I definitely don't do that. I feel like I don't take that opportunity
Not
often.
me either. Don't worry about it. I don't do it either.
It's not that I want to. I
so
just
here's another question that comes up time and time again within the industry, and this comes down to personal branding. Going to set an event up, certainly branded t-shirt and a pair of tracksuit bottoms or a pair of leggings is fine, because we get sweaty, it's dusty, it's dirty, we're getting set up, and everything can sometimes run over or under. But once the event starts, Lap, what do you wear?
I wear all black. I mean, we blend in. We don't try. I know there's companies that, want to dress on par with clients, but that's not who I want us to be. I want us to be more background. So I don't want them standing out, my staff, my team. I don't want us standing out like, wow, her gown is nicer than the guest. So we are very, very basic blacks. I brand myself as like a really fun team. So our team is like, and they're like actors and stuff like that. So they all have really cool fashion, and that's kind of what I push. But I know it doesn't work for all brands. But for my brand, like we push like personalities of the people that we send, because it's not just a photo booth; it's the people that we're sending. So that's something that I lean more into. But we don't brand anything, because we do a lot of like collab work and white labels and things like that. So we never want the branding to be the forefront of what we do. It's purposely
the
done.
opposite. Yeah. So we do a lot of white labeling and partnering as well, and because of that, none of our backdrops or kiosks or anything have our brand on it anywhere. It's very, very plain. And if we're doing a marketing event for ourselves, we're also in dress blacks. We have zero branding because it's about the client that we're working for. But if we're doing a social event like a mitzvah or a wedding, we are also in dress blacks, but we always have our signature red bowlers. And time and time again, people will come back to me and tell me, like, as soon as they walked into the room at the DJ, they saw a red bowler over in the corner and they knew that it was going to be a good event with the photo booth, because we also focus really high on our interaction with the guests. And we also hire a lot of actors like you do, because they have, or a drama club people, because they have that engaging personality. They even if they're having a horrible day, they can just turn it on right away and perform. And a lot of times, like, our red bowler kind of represents that at this point, that if you see a red bowler at an event, it's going to be a really engaging staff and it's going to be a good time. And certainly at social events, our red bowler is I would say a staple in the Vegas industry that everyone recognizes and knows.
I agree with you, Lap, though. Like, plain black or plain navy, so long as it's smart casual and they look clean and they look tidy, that's representative of your brand, and it's representative of an event professional that is there to provide a service and to do a service well. But everybody's different, and I'm not going to say that one brand is better than another brand, or one brand does it better.
Nope, you just said Laps is better.
No, I said
I need logos.
No, I said at some point you don't need logos, because logos aren't always appropriate. Like 90% of the events that we do, it's not appropriate for us to be standing in branded gear. Absolutely not, with what our clients are paying us.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But should all of our guys be wearing a navy shirt and either dark jeans or trousers and proper dress shoes? Absolutely. And a bit like yourselves, we hire brand ambassadors from the likes of model agencies to do our events, because they're interactive, they're trained salespeople, they're there to actually engage with guests. And like many in the industry, we have spent years fighting with attendants and training attendants and just not getting the right personalities for the brand. But we just make sure that they're dressed appropriately. If somebody's having a garden party, is it okay for them to be in jeans and a nice white shirt? Perfectly fine if that is what is on brand for the event. It's working with your clients to make sure that once you're into that event stage, your brand should be representative of them and their event, not your brand anymore, because you're there as a service provider. But your brand can go on your landing pages and in other ways. And of course, you should always have business cards in your back pocket and things like that available. But I see a lot of people branding their booths, so the back of their digital books or the back of their mirror is branded for the company, or God forbid, and I don't care if half the industry now hate me when they hear this, pop-up banners with your branding at an event are an absolute effing no.
I did that when I first started.
So did I.
I hate that I did that.
Listen,
I hate that I did.
everybody does it.
If we went into photo booth community tonight and we put a post in saying, are you using a pop-up banner with your brand at an event? There'll be 100 comments of absolutely, why shouldn't you be? And there's a QR code and
the tablecloths with your branding. I know. I never done that though.
Yeah. It's something we've all grown past, fortunately.
Yeah.
It's funny. But especially with the 360s, right now I'm seeing like so many people getting their
faces on there, I think is
their faces.
And weird. The thing is that like it doesn't take long for them to realize like that's that's not a great move. Especially when you're
it's a good advertisement for I like the cheapest form of advertising I can get, because roll-up banners are the cheapest thing you can buy.
Yeah.
So just a roll-up banner in itself is an ugly entity with your brand stuck on it, and it's a cheap one, and it screams, I like cheap stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're fine. Like if you're at a bridal show, that's you really want, that's totally different. Or like if you're doing
your brand.
Yeah, if you're doing like a sponsored event.
That's a marketing event.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a time and place.
A bridal show is completely different. If you see us at a bridal show, our logo is everywhere.
Yeah.
You're paying to be there at a bridal show.
A lot of money.
I want you to put branded carpet on your stand. Like everything should be branded, ceiling to floor. From people walking that front door, you want your brand everywhere. But when you are working a client event, absolutely not. It's just not right. And Lap, you said it yourself earlier. You did that earlier on in your business at the start of the business process, and you've evolved and you've doubled your pricing and you've rebranded and you've stopped doing all the things that you did in the beginning, because that's the learning curve. And I don't know whether people need to go through the learning curve.
They absolutely do. That's the thing that almost it's important to make clear that it's okay to do the things that we've just said, because we did them. We just said when you first my brand was shit.
Oh, it was terrible.
But you learn and you move forward.
My brand was embarrassing.
Where people go wrong is they don't make the change.
They're resistant to it. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to make the change. They don't want to drop $500 or $1,000 on a new brand or logo. The mistake is not fixing your initial mistakes. It's continuing on and on and on and not correcting the silly things you did when you were a new business and you just didn't know any better.
Sammy, do
just
you
being
remember
stuck where you're at?
Yeah.
When Selfie Mirror. So Selfie Mirror was the product brand. So he did have an overall brand, and then he had sub brands for each of the products. But do you remember Selfie Mirror was that bright pink with the mirror? The mirror was in the logo.
We did it. Listen, we did it. Yeah. Sorry, I did it. I did it. Let's be clear.
I went through a stage where I did that as well in the beginning, where I had my own branding, and then I tried to brand each product.
My first logo had flowers flying around there. I thought it was so pretty. You couldn't even tell what the name of the company was because it was just so girly.
It looked like a florist.
It was, I look like, There's no, when I rebranded, people always ask me like, why did I don't think my branding is like amazing or anything. I think it works for my brand because we're very clean. We're very minimalist. But like people always ask me like, why did I choose a logo if you guys don't know, it's just letters. It's just block letters, like very plain, kind of like UPS. And the advice that I was given was, you got to follow these high-end brands. Nobody is adding things, I don't know much about bags, but like Louis Vuitton, or they don't have a logo of a bag in their logo. They just state their name. And that's the direction I went with my logo. And also, one of the biggest things is like, for it to be eligible, like, is that how you guys say it? Yeah. Like, to be able to read the name is, a lot of people overlook that because they're so busy like adding the cameras. They're so busy adding the prop lips or the photo booth to add like the icon to it, right? But like, you're missing the whole point of, you want your name, your company to be something that sticks in people's minds. And it takes them 7 times to see your logo to even remember your name. So if they can't even read the company name because your logo is just so over the top extra, it beats the point of, that's the direction I went with my logo when I rebranded. And I rebranded a bunch of times, like probably 3 or 4.
Yeah. And you did. So what you did was you debranded, and every time you probably debranded a little bit more to get to where you are today.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And it is all part of the process, and nobody's going to get it. Well, maybe some people will get it right first time if they've owned other businesses and they're coming from a business background. But we're in a low entry level market where people come in, and a lot of the people that we work with photo-based marketing could be a mum that has used her life savings to buy this, to start a business, to put her kids through college, and when you're starting out, as Sammy pointed out earlier, you don't necessarily have the money, but you also don't have the business acumen because you've never done this before. So you look at what everybody else is doing and you think by following that, you're going to get it right. And what they don't realize is that 70% of the blueprint that is out there is so horribly wrong that it's taken them down this path that's creating so many obstacles for them in the future. But it's a learning curve, and we all have to go through that learning curve. But it's recognizing, and what Lab said earlier, is being able to change and saying, yeah, okay, I've made mistakes here. I'm going to look at this. I can be better. And that's the important thing for me. And I love it when I see some of our members rebranding and doubling their pricing and then tripling what they made the year before, and them coming back and going, you were right. You were actually right. I'm like, I know. It works. It's amazing.
What we always say to people is that it's that light bulb moment of, what they're saying is right. Or, I don't know if they're right, but I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to recognize that I don't know. I'm going to admit, hold my hand up. I don't know. They possibly do know. I'm going to give this a go, because changing your mindset's free. Costs you 0. Nothing. Not going to cost you the price of anything to flip how you think and say, right, they're maybe onto something here. I'm going to give this a go. That costs nothing, but it's one of the most difficult things to do. Nobody likes to hear they're wrong.
It's scary too.
Nobody likes to hear they're wrong, and to say, I'm wrong. I've seen the light. My logo quite possibly is a bit shit. I'm going to rebrand. That's a free process. That doesn't cost you anything. Now, rebranding is going to cost you money, but the mindset shift, free, but hard to do.
And there is people in the industry with shit logos that are actually doing okay, but they've been in the industry for 15 years and they've built a client base, and they have that constant recurring clients coming in, and they've grown the client. So really good example, when we first started out, one of the first event companies we worked for, we wanted to get in the door with, we gave them quite a reduced rate, like ridiculously reduced rate, lucky if there was any profit in it. And it took us time to build that relationship, to build them up to higher rates. But now we're in year 6, and we can walk in, like I could go to a meeting on Friday with them and say, that's going to be $5,000. Whereas this was somebody that 6 years ago wouldn't give us 6. And again, it depends on how you've grown your business. But there are brands out there that are really successful that are shit brands, so I'm not saying this is a one size fits all. What I'm saying is that if your branding is right or better, the process is easier. You don't have to build relationships for 10 years. You don't have to do events 1 year at 600 and the next year at 1,000 and the next year at 1,200 and the next year at 14. You don't have to build that relationship or your expertise. You can walk straight in and go, that's $5,000. Thank you very much.
Do you think, Ursula, potential corporate clients, or even venues or marketing managers of venues? Do you think they know instantly a poor photo booth brand and go, really not sure about them? That instantly kind of puts me off.
Yeah.
Is that how they think?
Well, I did. When I was at agency, if I came across somebody's website that looked like the typical photo boother, there was no way I was contacting them, because I'm a brand agency. I wanted somebody who understood branding. And the other thing is, we're content creators. We are creatives. We're in the creative industry. If you're going to sell me a photo or video marketing experience, I want to know that you understand branding. I want to know that you know what brand guidelines are. I want to know that I'm able to pay you to carry out the job that I want. But on the other side, if I just want a photo booth for a quick event for 2 hours for the opening of a store that doesn't have any budget, will I book the photo boother? Possibly, because I understand the difference. I know that if I contact the photo boother, I can get it for 500 quid. Whereas if I contact Media Lab, it's going to be $5,000, because their brands tell me that.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know what what a brand guide. I'm saying right, guys? Yeah. I don't think a lot of people know what that even is.
So brand guidelines are, if, say, for example, you're working with Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola come to you, you have to make sure that you ask them for a copy of their brand guidelines. So if you're branding any of your booths, or you're doing branded backdrops or your overlays, you have to ensure that you're using their right Pantone colors for their fonts. You have to make sure that you're using the right font, that you're using the logo in the right aspects and ratios. And all of that is in someone's brand guidelines. So it's like a little handbook that is developed by your branding team to tell you, here's how we look, here's how you can use our look, here's where it's positioned on a web page, here's where it's positioned on digital, here's where it's positioned on an overlay, and our key messaging, here's the words we can use. And some of them are right down to like the words you can't use. You know, the big brands, the likes of Google, actually have 6 pages that tell you the words you can't use when you talk about them. So it's just a little handbook to tell people who the brand is, everything about it, right down to the colours and the fonts and all the stuff that we need to know when we're putting together those fine details for an event.
And they can get very, very specific. Sometimes you just get very general ones that have the color hex codes and a copy of their logo, and that's all. And then some, like she mentioned, will have pages of things you can't use, and you'll have the exact number of pixels that the logo needs to be away from any other fonts, or away from the edge of prints, or the restrictions on if whatever colors can be within so many pixels of it. Like there are some that are incredibly specific.
I think it's interesting that we're talking about this, because you were talking about earlier about social media not having like really anything personal in regards to like your religion and personal opinions. And I feel like big brands like Google and things like that, if your brand is not in line with theirs, do they really want to use you? You know, I don't think a lot of people think about that when they're picking out their logos or their company name.
Yeah, it's
they should, because you see people like they'll have multi-million-dollar contracts with actors, and an actor will say something that's off-brand to where, you know, how Google aligns, and they'll pay those contracts out and get rid of them just because they are such a bad look for their brand, or maybe not so much bad, but they don't align with their brand.
Well, you only have to look at some of the celebrity contracts that they have. You know, celebrity goes out on Saturday night, gets a wee bit drunk, and says something they shouldn't say in a girl's bathroom about a product that they are currently promoting. Oh, I'd never use that shit shampoo. Sacked instantly. You know, it's so important. And even the brands or customers, it doesn't even have to be brands. Like customers for bridal, you know, they have an expectation of the suppliers that they're using. There's certain people that they will want to use or won't want to use, depending on your branding and depending on your brand presence, how you talk. You know, what is this company talking about on social media? Are they experienced? Are they brand leaders? You know, are you being professional in what you're talking about? All of those things become important no matter which customer you're talking to.
I think what I was talking about was more on the whole There's a lot of companies that give their photo booth company like their own name, like Susan's 360.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people are thinking like, is Google gonna be working with a company that is Laps 360? Google's not gonna hire Laps 360 because I sound very, in branding, I don't think people think about that. Like, I don't want to sound like I am a single operator that, might not be able to handle the type of events that Google or Super Bowl is going to hire.
Sammy kind of hit on that when he asked earlier if Ursula thought that a brand or a client can, if they are discriminatory on companies based on their brand and their logo, and they are.
You're being judged.
Instantly.
You're constantly being judged.
We do,
we're all
just
being
like
judged.
You guys. Yeah, you mentioned earlier, we do the same thing with dual branding. So on our social side, our logo is a bit more fun, and it's Smash Booth, and a bit, I guess, funner of a name. And then we have a completely different website branded towards the marketing events. It's SB Interactive Photo Studios. So instead of Smash Booth, it's just SB, because we feel that Smash Booth sends that message that we're more of a birthday party or wedding photo booth company. So we kind of wanted to detach those two things and market differently to brides than we do to our corporate clients. So we did the same thing that you were talking about earlier to kind of in the lettering for the Smash Booth is kind of more fun, but on the corporate side it is very clean and minimal.
But yeah, it's the recognizing, Jason, which we've talked about already. It's the Susan's photo booth's fine. If you're just starting out, you go after low hanging fruit, which is the backyard parties and the parties at your local sports club, and that's how you do that for a year to get money in the bank. And yes, you're probably cheap. That's okay, but then it's seeing other people going out. How do you get these 5 or 10 grand jobs? I'm not making the connection with, right, okay, stop. I need to now go back and look at this because this is no longer suitable for the journey I want to go on. It's not going to cut it anymore. It's cutting that off and making that disconnect and saying, okay, I'm gonna evolve. I'm gonna go through a period of growth. I want to go after this target audience. Now I need to appeal to this target audience, and it's letting Susan's photo booth go. Let it go, because it served its purpose.
I would still keep Susan's photo booth if it's profitable. What I would do is then create a new brand and go after that target audience. So here's my question, Jason: when did you split brand? When did you create the second brand? How far in were you?
I would say about 4 years in.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When people start, very few. There are some people come into the industry, but they're previous business owners. Any that I have had any dealings with or have coached have been previous business owners that see brand events and go, I want to start a brand agency, and it's different. But 90% of the people who come into this industry come in as Lap come in, as Sammy come in. I want to make extra money. This looks really fun. I can do this. And then slowly evolve into Sammy, you had no idea the potential with corporate until I was sitting in your office going, holy shit, I've just come from agency. This is a PR tool. This removes a PR agency from a launch event because you can do everything with one tool that is my job. Brand awareness, user engagement, content creation, social sharing, data capture. That is all the job of a PR company when they're standing at a brand launch or a store opening. And it's like, okay, light bulb moment. There is money to be made here.
A lot of people don't know that.
They don't. And it takes time to get to that point. And we have to go through that learning process too, because that learning process takes us back to learning to co-brand for other people and do overlays and learn our software and learn the potential of the tools that we use. And so there is a journey there. But I think the one thing that definitely comes out of this conversation is, when does that light bulb moment happen that you go, I need to stop right now and reevaluate where I am within my business?
Well, that's down to when you want to get somewhere that you're not currently at.
Yeah.
Because you see it all the time. People ask, oh, how do you get these 5-10 grand jobs? And that number to them is just astronomical. And they can't figure out how to do it. That's the point.
Yeah.
But there's quite a big education process there, and educating people into you don't just open your front door and trip over these jobs in the morning. These people have put in a lot of work, time, and effort to get to the point where they're regularly talking about picking up jobs at that level, that it's almost normal for them. And there was a big journey to get there.
Yeah. And we've all been on that journey.
Big time.
And you definitely don't need to go on that journey. If you want to be Susan's 3, that's fine. If you're not appealing, don't want to appeal to those larger companies, if you want to keep doing it on the weekends and whatnot. But if ever you decide to evolve and go to those things, first of all, don't try to start. I see a lot of people saying, I'm brand new and my niche is going to be marketing events and big corporate. And you're setting yourself up for failure. That's like buying a Big Mac and saying, I could do this, but I'm going to have a 5-star restaurant. Like you've got to wear your training wheels for a while. You've got to learn the industry. You've got to make your connections. You've got to learn the camera settings and all these things before you can even start to touch those larger marketing events, or else you're going to start burning bridges right from the beginning, and it's going to be even harder for you to move to those events once you are ready.
It's very reckless. It's very reckless in terms of your brand management to not have a minimum of a year to 18 months under your belt where you have done events, multiple events, that you can see what can go wrong, that you've tried different softwares, that you've tried different business models, because ultimately when you get to that next stage, more business and a bigger business, more people, more problems, more overheads, less profit, which is why you have to start charging more. Susan's photo booth going out for $500 every Saturday in the year when she has a full-time job and is just using it as extra cash to put one of her kids through college or to pay for holidays is perfectly fine. But when you're growing a business and you get to that level where you're having to start paying employees and you're looking at insurance and you're looking at taxes and you're looking at possibly having an office and warehouse and storage and all of those things, then you have to increase your costs. And this is all scarily part of the branding process. It all comes back to branding. The brand is the foundation of your business, and it's the foundation of your business model because it ultimately takes you in the direction that you're going. It helps you define the target market that you're going after. It helps you define your business acumen and what you want to say, who you want to target, how you're going to target them, and how you're going to work for them when you're further through that process. And it all comes back to brand.
I really hope there's nobody out there called Susan's photo booth.
I was just thinking the same thing.
My company was Lee Photography, so I'm not hating on anybody.
Yeah, I was just Googling Susan's photo booth.
There is a Susan's photo booth. It sounds like we're bashing them, but we're not.
We're not. I mean, my company name was Lee Photography.
Free rebrand for Susan's photo booth.
Susan, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. We just plucked your name out of the air. It wasn't intentional.
Do you not find most photographers, when they first start, call themselves
That's what I did.
Their name and photography?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Standard across the photography industry. Standard.
Yeah.
There's definitely been a change in the last 5 years. And I think Instagram has helped a lot with that in terms of photography brands, that it has shown people that you're a visual company. So example, my ex-husband was a photographer and his brand was Aurora Photographic Agency. And he was never, but his first boss was called John Lennon, or John, not Lennon, he's famous, Lemon maybe, or something. But basically his full name and photography, and that's who he worked for. And when he passed away, sadly, him and another boy took over the business and they rebranded it. But they branded it to Aurora Photographic Agency because there was 2 of them. And they were like, well, we can't just use a name. We have to come up with a brand. But you've seen that kind of evolve over the last 5 years, really, where people are using Instagram and they're seeing brands grow and they're seeing that we actually can be more creative here than just being
Lee Photography.
Yeah, people are now like Rabbit and Fox and all these, quirky names.
Yeah, but that's also down to the target audience that are now there. Like the generation that are coming up behind us expect this. This is the thing. Even the bridal market now, they expect this, because see, if you look like you don't understand what the trends are, they're not going to book you. That's why we have launched things like the magazine booth and the Vogue booth and, the glam booth and those things, because they're relevant to the target audience and they can relate to it and then they want to book our services. Do they realize that they're getting an old ginger guy turning up to their event? Absolutely not. Because the brand tells them that we're cool and we're funky and we know what's hip and what's happening, which is why Sammy and I don't do events, because we are not on brand. You know, the stark reality, after I had my last son, I did a video in the studio for our business. And Sammy pulled me a week later and he said, "You look awful in that video. You look like a school teacher."
I didn't say it like that.
I did say it like that.
Did I?
Yes, you
There's more
did.
cursing.
Then it must have been true. It must have been true.
2 weeks after giving birth and felt like awful, horrible, as Lap will understand. You don't feel yourself. You don't feel great. And the boys had to sit me down and say, "You're not on brand anymore. We need a new face."
It's okay. You had a reason to not be working events. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
We're right.
We're now 20 years past the right person, Ursula.
We are not right for our
We're
brand.
20 years past a 21-year-old that's full of energy and excitement and is so glad to be there. That's not us.
No. And like I've been a bride before and have no intentions of doing it again. You know, I am not my target audience. There are lots of people out there that are your target audience, and there's brand ambassadors that you can employ and that you can hire and that you can use to become part of that brand if you are no longer representative of the brand. And that's a really important part in your brand journey too, is realizing, now, would I send a young 23-year-old out to my corporate clients? Absolutely not. Like, if you look at any of our content, you'll see for our corporate events, I'm not working the booth because that's not appropriate either. But I am there and I'm in the background and I'm there for client liaison, because there's only one person in the company they should ever be talking to, and it's me, because I'm the person that is going to tell them how we're going to manage their brand and strategically what we're doing for them and why they're paying us so much money.
And I do not feature in any footage. You'll never find me in a
same.
video.
That's because you're
I do
behind
the same.
But
I run from the camera. I try not to be at events because I agree. Like, my team has, the personality, they have, the cool vibes for it. And that's what their strength is. And my strength is more on the back end. And I try to, and the communication with clients, like what is that client facing? That's more my strength.
Yeah.
But I'm not usually made up like this.
To recognize
so
those strengths and use them, and recognize the weaknesses and have someone else do those. A lot of people want to do everything, but if someone can do something better than you, then
it's the same. The whole thing at the minute. Say, for example, a lot of people are asking me, "Is TikTok right for my business? Is TikTok right for our business if me or Sammy's in a video?" Absolutely not. Is TikTok right for our business if we hire a 24-year-old to come out to our events and do some TikTok videos and content for us? Absolutely. It's about finding the right branding strategy for your business and being able to recognize when things need to change.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's a tough conversation too.
It's a scary moment too, because
when
I went to,
It's okay. Lap, I went home and I cried after they told me that I looked like a frumpy school teacher. May I just add?
That's what I said. I didn't say you look terrible.
I went to work 2 days after, so I totally...
Or you look like a frumpy school teacher. What's worse?
I had a lady tell me when I was going to give birth, I was like, I had my daughter last month. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not pregnant anymore. But it was scary for me to change, because changing your branding is just more than just like a logo. You know what I mean? It's a full overhaul of everything. It's a full overhaul of like the message that you're sending to your clients. It's an overhaul for me. It was an overhaul for me for my clients, my pricing, and it was scary. Like, people always ask me how I went about it, and it's not like you just buy a new logo, put a new website, and then everything just it was nothing like that. It was scary. I thought I was going to go out of business. I had people hanging up on me because the same clients weren't aware that I had switched my brand. Like, I've upgraded my brand and changed my entire business goal. Like, I did a whole business plan that people always talk about. So I had a whole different perspective and goals for my company, and the clients that I used to have, they're not aware of that yet. So there was people that was hanging up on me mid-sentence while I'm pitching to them. I had people laughing at me. It was so scary. We're talking months and months before it finally took, when people finally realized that, okay, she's not lead photography anymore. She's a whole different vibe now. And that's really what it was. It was day and night. Like, you know, some companies like show you, okay, this is their company setup. This is ours. Mine is the same exact company. It's just me back then versus me today. You know, it's embarrassing. Like, I can't believe one of my guys found my old photo booth and was like, what the heck is this? I'm like, that's a photo booth, because I was DIY. It's embarrassing. It's a scary move. But the thing is, like, once you go through that path, there's no looking back. Like, it's just growth. Once you are brave enough to take that step,
you come out so much stronger. And it's a learning process as well. And it's a growth process, and it's a period of growth for people, and it's terrifying, but it's also so unbelievably lucrative. That everyone who's terrified should just look at the financial opportunity at the other end. Look at the growth. Look at the fact, if you're sitting today and you're going, I really want to hire somebody this year, I really want to buy X, Y, or Z, I want to invest into new offices, or, you know, if you're at that stage of growth, the first thing you need to look at is your brand and your website and say, am I ready for it?
I think another thing that was important is just not, if you have a lot of people who are telling you what you're doing is good, is good enough, that's not really going to help you grow your brand. You need to be around people who are telling you ways that you have to improve, ways that you have to grow, ways that you have to change. Like, I think for me, surrounding myself around people who I wanted to be, you know, Smile Lounge, Lisa Oler, I found her online. She was doing, you know, these enclosures that they do now, these big 360. She was doing those like 13 years ago. I couldn't even find, I searched high and low for this enclosure because it just elevated her brand so much. So in my mind, that's who I wanted to be. So it helped me on my path. So like setting your goals on a vision of who you want your brand to be, and kind of surrounding yourself around people that are better than you will only elevate you and what you do and how well you do it. If everyone around you is giving you high fives for the things that you're doing, there's no way I feel like there's no way you can elevate your brand.
No,
because everybody's
you definitely
just
need someone that's going to tell you you look like a frumpy school teacher when you look like a frumpy school teacher.
You know,
because it was awful.
I'm sorry.
But you need friends that are going to be critical and honest with you.
No, but Ursula,
you need to hear it though.
Part of it is I care. I wouldn't let you go and do us when I didn't think it was right, because I look at people down in Canberra 7 days a week, so I know. Yeah, I know. Like, it's part of that's.
It sucks, but I feel like there's certain things that you got to say that you don't want to hear. It's going to hurt your feelings. But, you know, you're talking about your money. You're talking about your business, you know? I feel like that's more important. Like, I would rather you tell me I look like shit and, you know, it's time to go home, and just let, you know, the team work the event versus me losing the opportunity long term. Because your one client is not just that one event. It can end up being like a 10-year relationship you have with this client, you know?
And you're only ever as good as your last event, you know, and you have to look at every event, and you have to look at criticism, you know, and the same for your branding. It's about positive criticism. Lat made a really good, like, if there's one thing that people can take away from this session, is surround yourself with people who are going to help you, that aren't always going to be yes people. The no people are the people you're going to learn from. The people that can tell you, give you positive criticism to say, well, actually, have you considered doing it this way? And they're not always like, sometimes in my coaching, I can be a bit harsh and be like, really? Really? Or there's other times I'll say, well, have you thought about doing it this way? Or have you considered that maybe you might get better results if you tried that? Rather than these people coming in going, you're doing awesome, you're great, you're fabulous. Because if you're great and you're fabulous, where can you go? There's nowhere to go from great and fabulous, and none of us are amazingly amazing. Everybody's learning every day. Even the top 5% of boothers in our industry are not completely amazing. They're learning every day. They're bringing new people and new skills into their team that they don't necessarily have, and they're pushing forward and constantly striving to do better.
Those people are probably hypercritical of themselves.
Yeah. Like you're hypercritical of everything, and we need that in our business.
But let's be clear, myself the most.
Yeah.
I consider nothing I do is good enough. Nothing. Every video I ever made, I would throw it in the bin, and if I didn't have somebody telling me, no, it's fine, put it out.
Yeah.
It's good enough. Nothing is ever good enough for me. Nothing. And that includes myself.
And we need that within our business too, though. Like, Sammy is the driving force behind the creativity within our own business because he's constantly pushing boundaries. And then we have George on software. Like, he is constantly trying to break software. He will sit for 3 days and take a software and push it beyond its limitations until he breaks it. But you need that when you're pushing forward and you're driving forward and you want to grow a brand. You constantly have to be reevaluating and taking stock on, okay, well, this worked, but how can we make it better? How can we make it better? Because you're only ever as good as your last event.
I think that's a good place to wrap up. A
Thank
soundbite.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
soundbite. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys both coming on here.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a Facebook group that you guys don't know about. I'll send you links.
Ooh.
So
Can
everybody,
we be your first members?
Steve,
if I
was
go
our
in there
first
and
member.
we're not member 3 and 4, there's going to be a problem.
Well, Lap's actually not a member yet, so you can beat Lap.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be a member today.
Her social media is all private. She doesn't need to be in there.
But yeah, find us on Facebook.
I'm active on the boards.
Very active.
Yeah.
Don't friend Lap because she is private. But certainly reach out to us. Friend us, find us on Instagram and TikTok and all those other things. And as well, Ursula and Sammy, if you are not already checking out Photo Booth Marketing, swing by and see what they're doing over there. It's great stuff. See you next time. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.